Unlike Jeff Patterson, who was anchored to the Pacific Toyota dealer studio after a huge weekend for the Vancouver Canucks with a pair of games and 3 out of 4 points on the road against some quality opponents. He joins us now, the host of RinkWide and our Canucks reporter. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hoping that you guys can help me make sense of whatever that was yesterday. You know, sometimes you're in the bubble, you feel like you're too close to it, and we broke down the game on RinkWide, and then I walked away, and I honestly, I took a sec to shake my head, and how exactly did we arrive at that destination? They needed both electric and gas in that game against
and Mackenzie MacEachern.
Running out of gas in the first period, and then they hit some sort of buttons, and one of them was a turbo boost there for a team that struggles as much as they have in third periods to score 5 in the third, 6 unanswered goals, spread the scoring around, you name it. That first period was so dreadful. You can't gloss over how bad the first period was. Full credit to them for getting the victory, but come on, that's not just playing with fire. That is walking into an inferno if they think that they can get by many nights. And to get the captain back, that should have been the boost. Tampa had played the day before. They had a backup goaltender at the other end of the ice. All those things should have mattered to the Canucks and didn't in the opening 20 minutes. But it is a 60-minute game, and as John Cooper said, his team got comfortable 30 minutes into this thing, and he credited the Canucks for playing to the final buzzer.
That's it. I was going to say, I think the lawyer from Prince George hit it on the head, Jeff. One team got comfortable, and in this league, the second that happens, you're done, said John Cooper of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tell me, Jeff, is there something about this team on the road? Why are they better on the road yet again this season as opposed to home ice?
And they're not alone. Have you seen what the Los Angeles Kings are doing and the New York Rangers? We know their struggles on home ice. So the Canucks one is hard. I mean, we've said all along they have to be better at home, and yet they haven't been, with just 3 wins in their 9 games so far on home ice. And the road record, hard to knock, given all of the extenuating circumstances that this team has battled through and dealt with. And look, they haven't played particularly well. The process hasn't been great here on this road trip, but they've got timely saves. Special teams have come through for them in some moments here. Again, spread scoring. You're not expecting 2 points from Mackenzie MacEachern and Linus Karlsson finding a way, and Drew O'Connor just keeps on scoring because that's all he seems to do right now. And so, I could sit here and throw 1,000 stats at you that sort of make no sense how this team is 9-9-2 after 20 games. And yet, I suppose nobody accounted for 12 goals from Kiefer Sherwood, and nobody thought that Linus Karlsson would have 6 points at this stage of the season, and on and on it goes. So they have got some nice depth contributions. You're still waiting for the top of the lineup, but that is starting to come now too, obviously, with Quinn performing the way he has, and Elias Paterson kind of quietly 3 straight multi-point efforts for him. So enough of the top of the lineup, getting a fair bit lower in the lineup. And through it all, enough saves and saves in key moments, because that game at 2-0 certainly was threatening to get away from them. And even at 2-1, Tampa got 2 more power plays, and we know the story of Canucks penalty kill. I thought Adam Foote was right to point to that post-game where he gave credit to his penalty killers, something that he hasn't been able to do very often this season. And he talked about the fact they made some tweaks and that Brock Besser and Jake DeBrusk were used a little bit more as penalty killers. Whatever the case, in a 2-1 game, Tampa had 2 power plays, could have extended the lead, didn't. And then the Vancouver Canucks end up winning the special teams battle and winning the hockey game.
A good challenge as well. It was, good to take that third goal off the board and restore that little bit of cushion. You mentioned the top of the lineup. Quinn Hughes looked like he deserved almost all of his 4 points. Elias Patterson, a gift of an assist there at the end. I'm noticing the ramp up of Hughes. When he is available, when he's in the lineup, I am noticing the ramp of his play. Patterson's not playing bad, but are you noticing an actual ramp up? Are the multi-point games indicative of something going in the right direction? We've asked for bottom line. We didn't care about the little stuff. So I shouldn't talk out of both ends. I don't see the play improving like I do with Hughes.
Well, just you wait till David Kemp takes some of this defensive responsibility. And maybe there will be something to that. But a couple of things jump to mind. One is, they got Quinn back after he missed the game in Carolina. He played 9 minutes and 27 seconds of the first period. So he played half the first period, and Tampa still did that to the Vancouver Canucks, which is wild to think that Quinn's out there for half the period and the shots were 13-1. So that didn't make a lot of sense. But then he settled in, the team settled in, the DeBrusk power play goal that got them on the board and gave them some life. And of course, he figures in that. I thought interesting too, Adam Foote talked about how in the first period, he thought Quinn was trying to do too much himself. And then he started to delegate a little bit. And we've said this before, that when Quinn's out of the lineup, sometimes I think guys recognize, okay, he's not here. We've got to do the things that made us great hockey players and got us to the National Hockey League. And so Quinn's back in the lineup, but I do think we're starting to see him move the puck a little bit more. Like, you look at his first 2 assists. In fact, 3 of the 4 were secondary assists, and that's not a knock on Quinn Hughes. But he's moving the puck to somebody else who's then making a play. Like, I think Brock Besser here in recent games, the other night in Carolina, that cross-seam pass to Connor Garland. Yesterday, it was to the interior to Kiefer Sherwood. Like, we're starting to see some of the playmaking chops of Brock Besser when we think of him as, just a goal scorer, and he has scored his 8 goals this season. So I think Quinn is using his teammates a little bit more and a little more effectively. And that's a good thing. And ultimately, it's hard to knock 7 assists in the last 2 games that he's played. So, it was good to see him back in there. Like, I was a little worried that the way it was sort of presented, he's going to take the pregame warm-up, but will only play if he feels okay. And I thought, okay, that gives them an out that, he's not 100%. We may not see Quinn Hughes in this hockey game. Canucks games are far more entertaining anytime the captain is in the lineup, and obviously they're a better team with him. So, quick turnaround, and we'll see how that body feels and what he's got left in the tank and what they all have left in the tank here, going for a 3rd game in 4 nights against the 2-time defending champs. But where I think we're seeing sort of the Quinn of old is those 3 feet inside the blue line, where he's creating space for himself. And once he has space to operate, that's where he is dangerous. He's still getting his shots. Like, I think he had 4 shots in 7 attempts yesterday. And that's, again, on this long list of things that don't really make sense about the Canucks' first 20 games, Quinn has 1 goal, and it was an empty net goal in Dallas. And it's not for a lack of shots, and maybe this is just sport and hockey, and he's due a few here at some point. But for a guy who always talks about working on his shot and got to 17 goals not that long ago, he's sitting on 1, and it's an empty netter. He hasn't beaten a goaltender yet for a goal this National Hockey League season. So throw that on the list of some strange stats around the Vancouver Canucks. But through it all, they somehow have scratched and clawed and managed to tread water here at 9-9-2.
I know you were joking about the David Kampf thing, Jeff, but temperature check here on Petey. Take a look at this. Halfway through the month of November, it's 9 points in 7 games, but all those block shots, we talked about block shots in the opening block. He's on a record-setting pace for a forward, and all of those face-offs, and of course, so many of them in the defensive zone, because the head coach doesn't trust many other centermen to play in that part of the ice. I mean, is it possible here that, Kampf and maybe Hedl, who's skating again, can help unlock Paterson when they get into this lineup, allow him to play the offensive side of the puck a little bit more and in the offensive zone a little bit more?
Yeah, and I want to be totally clear here. Look, this market leads the NHL in snark per 60. We get that, right? So the minute they sign David Kampf, the savior, the rebuild's done, all that kind of crap. Forget that. This is a team that can't kill penalties, hasn't won many faceoffs, and is paper thin at center ice. Like, I think people recognize that. So you've got a guy who fell out of favor with one person, and that one person just happened to be the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there wasn't a fit for David Kampf with the Leafs. That doesn't mean that he's not a National Hockey League player. He is limited offensively. We get that. But the one thing he's done throughout his career is win more faceoffs than he loses. He was among the Leafs' top penalty-killing forwards. And this team has a need. So to get him at a shade over $1 million, prorated over this, no problems whatsoever. In some ways he's a Teddy Bluger clone, and when Bluger comes back, that will create some questions, but that's for another day. Right now, I think that you stick him in there, you ask him to take on a few of the defensive zone faceoffs at the very least that Elias Pettersson has had, and if that can give Petey a little more juice offensively, save him up, conserve some energy. Maybe you can find some more favorable matchups, all those types of things. Like, I don't see a downside here for the Vancouver Canucks in signing camp, but also in what it could. Is that a trickle-up effect, I suppose, when you look at the Canucks depth chart? Whatever the case here, again, nobody has great expectations that David Kampf is going to turn this team into anything more than it already is, but they have a need. He was available. It seemed like a marriage of convenience. This way he stays in the NHL. The opportunity is there for him, and it might just free up a guy like Elias Paterson to drive a little more offense.
A word or two on Kevin Lankinen, because he crept over the bar of goals saved above expected this weekend with his performances.
Yeah, and at 2-0 and that game threatening to get away, he made some stops. I think of a bang play on the doorstep against Jake Guentzel in the second period. And Guentzel scored in the game and has scored a bunch against the Canucks. If he gets that one, it's a 3-1 hockey game, and maybe the comeback never has an opportunity. So there were some situational saves. And that's one thing the Canucks really have got a lot of. We know Thatcher Demko, for the most part, has been terrific when he's been healthy and in there. And Lankinen's given up a few too many goals, but there have also been games and moments in games where he has come through and delivered. And I think Sunday certainly goes into that pile. And so now the question is, do they dare run him out back-to-back for the second straight weekend, 3-4? He's a gamer, and last week after going back-to-back, he was like, I felt good. I wouldn't mind playing a third game. That's fine. Hang on, Kevin. It's a long season, and they need you. And so, one worry is injury, just the workload here, and not a lot of time for his body to reset. Now, over the final half of yesterday's game, he wasn't terribly busy, so it wasn't like he ended up facing 45 shots and 90 attempts like he did the other night in Carolina. It's pretty clear that they don't have a lot of trust in Jiri Patera, but do they have to go down that road? And I guess we'll find out. And Adam Foote wasn't tent here, but I wondered if they would have gone Patera in Tampa against the Bolts team that had played the day before and had all those injuries and ultimately didn't score a lot of goals, and that could have allowed Lankinen to rest, but they chose to go the other way. They get 3 of 4 points. So are they playing with house money on this road trip? Does that factor into it? My concern isn't so much that Kevin Lankinen can't play again and deliver for them, but what is the cumulative effect here? And if something were to go sideways with him, then that's a totally different conversation. Now, the one thing they have working for them is when they get through this game against the Panthers, the schedule really lightens up for the first time all season, right? 2 games in the next 9 nights. They're both at home. And so they could, sock him away and give him, if he needs a maintenance day in there, whatever, they could go down that road. So my gut tells me that they're going to run him out again against the Panthers here. But part of the problem too, guys, is that we've heard that Nikita Tolopilo is getting closer in Abbotsford, but he didn't dress for either of Abby's games over the weekend. So if he's not ready to play in the American Hockey League, he's not ready to play in the National Hockey League. So is it the Kevin Lankinen show for the foreseeable future? And the other part to that is when Patrick Alvin did his Zoom on Sunday with the media here, and I asked him about Thatcher Demko, and I said, the 2 to 3 week timeline that's been presented, does that line up with what the hockey club feels? And he certainly didn't say yes to that. He just said, we're just saying that he's week to week. And so with Demko, you just never know. But they're going to have to forge on without Demko. We know that. And so is it going to be Kevin Lankinen every time out? That just feels like they are playing with fire, especially given the injury situation that they've already incurred this year.
As we hit the 20-game mark, do you have any different of an opinion now on this team than you did 5 games ago? Is their ability to stay at 500 admirable enough that you feel like this team may be invested in by management?
I wouldn't want to see them spend a ton of assets. I just think the long game here is that at 500, you can tip your cap to them and say there were lots of reasons why they shouldn't even be at 500, but at 9-9-2, they've still got a lot of work to do. Things that surprise me, they've scored a little more than I thought they might. Like that 2-1 loss in Nashville at the end of the first road trip, and I know the road trip had gone reasonably well, but lost 5-1 in Pittsburgh and 2-1 in Nashville, and I thought, this is sort of the start of this real struggle to put pucks in the net and yet they have surprised on that front. They've got 60 goals in their 20 games, so they're ahead of their pace from last year. They've scored the same number of goals as the Edmonton Oilers. Like, you kind of stop and you think about that with the Vancouver Canucks, and that makes, again, not a lot of sense, but they've scored enough. They've given up way too much, and obviously the penalty kill has been a huge part of that. There have been some surprises on both sides. Like the fact that Evander Kane, 20 games in, doesn't have a 5-on-5 goal, and yet is third in the NHL among forwards in 5-on-5 ice time, which is just, like, that's madness to think how much he is playing, and yet his goals have come, a pair of them have come 6-on-5, and one at 5-on-4. So he doesn't score 5-on-5. Jake DeBrusk has one 5-on-5 goal. And then the flip side of that coin is at the 20-game mark, Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, and Brock Besser each have one power play goal. And you'd think, oh, the power play must be in the sewer, but Jake has gone wild on the power play. Kiefer Sherwood has picked up a few along the way. Power play is actually all right. It's in the top half of the National Hockey League. And maybe Sunday was the worm turning with this penalty kill and some of the tweaks that they have made. I guess I need to see a few more games of that. But overall, I thought this team was going to struggle offensively, and they really haven't. And that's allowed them to stay in these games and strike when the opportunity presents itself to grind out a few more points and a few more victories along the way than maybe I had anticipated.
I caught this discussion on RinkWide, but Mackenzie MacEachern, Jeff, 4 points in 5 games, including a pair against Tampa. Are we talking about a journeyman late bloomer regular in this Vancouver Canucks lineup? A word or two about him.
Yeah, well, I haven't been able to use this for a while, but I like guys that get called up to do something. And this guy suddenly has 4 points in the games that he's played. And so when you look around, and I don't want to pick on Archie Bains, but Archie Bains has basically been an every night player up until he was benched for Mackenzie MacEachern, and there wasn't the something in Archie Bains' game in somehow, some way. And maybe it does speak to a little bit of experience. This guy has been around the block. He's played in the National Hockey League. He's played NHL playoff games. In fact, his last goal came in the postseason. It had been a while since he had scored in the regular season, but a big body that seems to win his share of battles along the boards, and coaches love that. We know Rick Tocchet did, and Adam Foote cut from the same cloth here. I think when guys are sort of in those role positions, coaches just want to believe that they're going to make the right play, the safe play, and get out of trouble. And I think for the most part, he has done that. And now he's added this element of a little bit of offense, and not to blow anybody away, but like, I knew he was at training camp, but honestly, I have zero recollection of anything that he did. Remember, Joe LeBate made it like deep into the second week of the preseason. And Joe LeBate got recalled and played one game, and here's Mackenzie MacEachern, who right now looks like they can't bring him out of the lineup. And so good for him. Like, I like those kinds of stories, that this is a guy that stuck with it and, plied his trade in the minors, and I probably saw an opportunity to get this chance in the Vancouver organization at some point, but maybe it's come sooner than he had anticipated with all the injuries that the hockey clubs incurred. Whatever the case, like, he doesn't look out of place in the National Hockey League or in this lineup. And so I can't imagine that he's the guy that comes out as they make room for David Kampf and have to make some roster manipulations and those types of things. And so we'll see where it goes. But in the short term, like, I don't know that he's here to stay, but I don't think he's going anywhere in the immediate future based on the way that he has performed.
Yeah, how can you? Lastly, for me, Jeff, just the week ahead, you've referenced it a little bit already, Florida today, and then finally, a chance to breathe and get some rest.
Yeah, and I think the Canucks are doing like they did in the last road trip, where they're overnighting in Florida and flying home on Tuesday, because they've got the benefit of a couple of extra days between games. And so my belief is they'll practice Wednesday, play Dallas on Thursday. That'll bring this 6-game gauntlet to an end, but they've managed to pick up points in most of these games so far, and we'll see how it wraps up. But and then a few more days off before they host the Calgary Flames. So it's a brief 2-game homestand, but it spans the better part of a week and a couple of days before they're back out on the road and do the California thing. And that's looking like it's going to be a challenge in and of itself, but they can't worry about those California teams right now. But I think the start this week, they have an opportunity. Like the Florida Panthers, obviously without Sasha Barkov and without Matthew Tkachuk, they struggle to score goals. They're fairly stingy defensively, and it sounds like Bob's going to be in goal. And so no backup for the Florida Panthers in this one. But I do think that there's an opportunity here for the Canucks. And I guess I'm curious as much about the outcome as I am the process here. Again, like I need to see them be ready from the drop of the puck and try to possess the puck a little bit more than they have the first two stops of this road trip. But ultimately, they have found their way to work their way into games here. 3 of 4 points, hard to argue with that, and we'll see where it goes. But I think they've got a chance here. They swept the Panthers last year, including a shutout on home ice and an overtime win in Sunrise early in the season. So what an opportunity to get 5 of 6 points in a road trip that we built up with the ominous travel and the short time span and not much rest here. And again, somehow, some way, really, and this goes for all 20 games so far, they have found a way when maybe you think that they wouldn't.
And past the quarter mark now of the road record, and the rest of the conference, Jeff, it's weird. It's a weird start to the season. There's a lot of parity, and some of the teams that are at the top of the division, of course, are odd as well. LA, Anaheim, Seattle. Nobody would have said that 1, 2, 3,
right,
through 20 games of the season either. So it is a strange start to the year, and teams like Vegas are starting to lose now. I don't know. Minnesota and St. Louis looking as mediocre as they are. It's weird.
Well, and we had Jeff Merrick on Friday when you weren't here, and that was Jeff's point. He was like, it has just been a drab first 20 games, basically league-wide here. They're, the Bedard and Celebrini stories have been terrific, and Nathan MacKinnon, what he's doing in Colorado, but beyond that, it does feel like one giant mud puddle, and the Canucks are splashing around in it with a bunch of other teams.
They are. Got the gumboots on.
I love the analogy. All right, Jeff, we'll be watching, listening RinkWide Vancouver tonight following the game against Florida. And, of course, Thursday back home here against Dallas. And we'll catch up with you on Friday. Thanks for this, buddy.
Yeah, sounds good. Irf is back after his birthday weekend. We gave him the weekend off, but he'll be back in the chair there. So, yes, RinkWide after the Canucks and the Panthers.